Derek, I pay my insurance invoice every time it comes due. I've had
Not according to the late pay email we get once in a while, but
that
okay,
was
yes,
one
in
time I
general.
was
Okay.
out of town. I pay
Yeah.
my auto insurance, I pay my home insurance, I pay my umbrella insurance, whatever that policy even is. And I've never had a claim, and I certainly don't plan on having a claim anytime soon. I'm a safe driver. I take decent care of my home. What is my insurance even good for anyway, right? And that's a fair question.
Yeah.
You hear that sentiment, and we get that, right? Especially the little door dings and the little $400 things. People aren't making those claims these days anyway because they understand it's really not in their interest to make those nickel and diming type of claims. What insurance is for, especially these days, is for those catastrophic type of events that you simply can't afford to self-insure and certainly couldn't pay out of pocket. So let's take a quick look for our clients. What type of claims actually happen here in Michigan, right? We're going to look at some real claim examples that have occurred in the past year to share how that played out. Well, first of all, what happened? Goodness, what went wrong? But then how did that insurance coverage play out so that you can better understand how would yours play out? And what is your insurance actually doing for you? Because, of course, you're paying the premiums. You've had it for all these years and hopefully you won't need it, right? That'd be the dream. But if you ever do, you want to make sure that it's there to take care of you on that potentially worst day. So we're
And
going to
these
take a
are
quick
all
look.
from the past few years within our small family-owned local agency in Grand Rapids, correct?
They are, yes,
Okay.
and
All right,
most of
let's
them
see
just the
some.
past couple of months.
Okay.
So this is a very raw printout here, right? This is straight from the insurance company. Of course, no names, no claim numbers, but we've
Wow.
highlighted
Have
five.
they not updated their version of Windows in decades or what?
Yeah, I know,
This
right?
looks like it's MS-DOS still, but
It
okay. All
probably
right.
is, but hey, I did
Thanks for all
say
the
it's
work you did
coming
prepping this
from an
for us. It's
insurance
very
company.
aesthetically pleasing, Brian.
Okay, anyway, this printout directly from an insurance company, right? Claims that have occurred with our clients. This first one here, Derek, we see it's a homeowner's claim. It's a discharge of water. If we look at this column here, we see a reserve column and we see a paid column. The paid column is how much has already been paid on this claim. The reserve is how much is still expected to be paid on this claim. So if you add those two together, that's going to tell you that in this first example, the total amount of that claim that's expected to be paid is about $110,000. What happened in this event?
Yeah, this is a nice, relatively large two-story home, and there's a bathroom on the second floor. And I'm not going to begin to pretend that I know how toilets work. I can basically flush them and that's it. Actually, my wife says sometimes I can't even do that. But this is one of those toilets that had a malfunction and it just kept on running. And guess what? It overflowed. The water just kept on overflowing throughout the entire weekend while the homeowners were traveling. And they returned to a house that had an entire second floor that had essentially flooded. That water ran down to the main floor through the walls and got all the insulation wet and the wooden frame of the house. And then that ended up, of course, in the finished basement as well. So you have three layers of the home with water damage, and that all needed to be repaired.
That is a bad day. And for those of you wondering, would my home insurance apply to that? That's going to be coverage on your dwelling, which is going to be this top line coverage in your home insurance policy. On this example policy here, we see almost 700,000 of dwelling coverage. That's the coverage that this claim is being paid under.
And Brian, water damage is always an area where we get a lot of questions, and it's a little bit gray in some cases, but generally, things like the overflow of a toilet or a bathtub or a sink is going to be covered. If the washing machine tips over, that's going to be covered. If the water heater bursts, that's going to be covered. If you have plumbing in the wall that ruptures and spreads water all over the house, that's going to be covered. So that type of thing in general is going to be covered by the home insurance policy. And as you noted, the dwelling coverage is what's going to pay for the repairs to the home.
Very good. Absolutely. Now, this second claim example here, we see umbrella policy, right? Umbrella is liability coverage. We see that this is regarding auto liability, which means that there was an auto accident. And in this case, our client headed down a two-lane road. Oncoming traffic drifts into our client's lane. He has to pull off the road just a bit, ends up forcing someone else off the road behind him who was injured when they crashed off the side of the road. So it didn't even make contact with our client's vehicle, but because of the injuries that were sustained, seemingly for our client not even being at fault here. Not only is the auto insurance policy in play, but they're expecting to pay another $500,000 on the umbrella insurance policy. And this is the type of thing where you would think I couldn't possibly be responsible for this. It's certainly not held liable. That's the case in a lot of these lawsuit claims. That's just the way it works. So this coverage that's in place on the umbrella is absolutely critical.
Yeah, it's very scary to think that here in Michigan, you don't have to be the predominant cause of an accident or to be sued because of it. You could just be a part of it and not even the one that was truly the cause of it and still end up getting those lawsuit papers in the mail.
Absolutely. So here's where your liability coverage is going to be shown on your auto insurance policy. In this example, it's $1 million of lawsuit protection. And then from the claim example we're looking at, that's where the liability coverage in the umbrella comes into play, which in this example here is $2 million of additional lawsuit protection.
So, Brian, we see $500,000 of reserve on the umbrella insurance. So, does that mean that the entire underlying residual bodily injury coverage was exhausted and now the umbrella is going to provide another 500 grand?
Correct. Yep. You're
Okay.
only going to hit the umbrella if you've already exhausted that existing coverage on the auto insurance policy, which is what we're seeing in this case here.
So, this isn't a $500,000 claim. This is a $1.5 million claim. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Got it.
Number 3 here, D, personal injury protection coverage. Most of us in Michigan are familiar with that coverage. You will always see auto related because that's the medical coverage in your auto insurance policy. Now, in this claim example here, we see about $80,000 that has been paid in that medical coverage. We see another $124,000 that's reserved or expected to be paid. And in this example, our client was just driving down the road going through a busy intersection. Unfortunately, when someone that was not paying any attention ran the red light, T-boned our client, his vehicle rolls a couple of times, and of course, he's injured. Thank goodness it looks like he's going to be okay over the long term, but certainly sustained some significant injuries and therefore a lot of medical expenses associated with that. He didn't plan on that happening. He certainly didn't see that coming, but I can tell you he's awfully glad that he has this personal injury protection coverage on his auto insurance policy with an unlimited coverage amount. So no matter what this racks up in terms of his medical expenses and his lingering care and everything else that goes with it, he's going to have that coverage because his auto insurance shows unlimited for his personal injury protection.
And Brian, even though he has health insurance, that health insurance has a high deductible on it. It has a lot of copays, and there are a lot of services that he needed that aren't covered by that health insurance policy that he
Of
has.
course.
And that's where the personal injury protection really comes in helpful.
Absolutely. And that's usually going to be the case in a significant auto accident. Here we go on another home insurance claim, Derek. We see fire claim. Goodness, nobody wants to see that and certainly doesn't want to experience it. We see 63,000 that's been paid out. We see another 100,000 that's expected to be paid out. What happened in this one?
Yeah, this is one of those instances where somebody has a large outbuilding and they kept a tractor in there. That tractor caught fire and that outbuilding went down in flames. Not only was the building entirely destroyed, but all of the belongings that were in there were also destroyed. So this is a good reminder to anybody that stores their lawnmower, their snow blower, their weed whacker, extra gasoline, any sort of trickle charger for that Corvette that they store during the winter months. All of those things have potential to cause some sort of fire, and you never know when that's going to potentially happen.
That's a great point. So the damage to the structure itself, the garage, is covered by this other structures. And then, like you mentioned, the stuff that's in it, that's going to be covered by the personal property. This personal property coverage applies not just to what's in your home, but also your things kept in the garage or in the trunk of your car or in your luggage as you're traveling across Europe.
And just to be clear, Brian, you're using that policy as an example. That policy did not have $100,000 of other structures coverage. The policy will only pay the maximum that's on that policy. So on the policy that this incident actually occurred, they did have $100,000 of other structures coverage to rebuild that outbuilding.
Yep, thank goodness. Finally, Derek, claim number 5, executive umbrella. We saw an umbrella claim up above. We see another one here, also related to auto liability. What on earth happened in this one?
Yeah, in this incident, we had a lady that was in her 70s turning right onto the east belt line. She was looking into the setting sun and did not see an oncoming motorcyclist. That motorcyclist had to swerve. They didn't hit the vehicle, but they had to lay down the bike, and then they themselves went into a guardrail and sustained pretty significant injuries.
Goodness.
The auto insurance policy for our driver paid the first $1 million of that lawsuit. The lawsuit exceeded that amount. And as we saw on one of the previous examples, the umbrella policy stepped in to provide additional coverage for the portion of that lawsuit that wasn't covered by the auto insurance because it exceeded the auto insurance's coverage amount.
Very good. So, quick examples here, Derek. Thanks for walking us through that. Right. If you're anything like me, I keep paying my insurance. I'm never going to need it. I'm not planning on anything bad happening in my life. Well, things happen. These clients weren't planning on that either. And arguably, none of them did anything wrong. And they weren't at fault. And yet, here you are seeing these type of claim payments and potentially lawsuit exposures. Well, that's what the insurance coverage is there for. And most of this coverage, especially the liability coverage, is incredibly inexpensive. So this is a great reminder to focus on those big ticket items, protect your financial plan, make sure you've got your ducks in a row so that if you are one of the unfortunate people who are involved in something like this, yeah, it ruins your day, but it's not going to ruin the rest of your life from a financial standpoint.
That's right.
Derek, thanks for walking through this with me. If you have questions about your insurance coverage, what is it there? How does it play out? How would any of these scenarios work with your insurance plan? Our team here at Bor Insurance Group is happy to help. Please reach out to us anytime. Thanks
Thanks,
so
Brian.
much.